Of what we hope will be the conclusion of one of the weirdest weeks in the history of the Busch Grand National Series. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Joy. Consider this. Last week's race winner didn't get first place money. One of this series' most potent driver-owner-manufacturer combinations just exploded. And Neil Bonnet for a 4-turn oval racetrack. Now, talk about weird. This place is it.
Call it weird, unique, or whatever you want to. It is definitely a different type racetrack. As we see right here on the front straightaway, the start-finish line is right exactly where it's supposed to be, in front of the grandstand. But just down below the start-finish line is turn 1, a real short distance down into turn 1. And then as we swing on around from turn 1 over to turn 2, a long way around there, a lot of turn for these guys to negotiate. Come off turn 2, the longest run on the racetrack, a big, long back straightaway up into turn 3, and then turn 3 and 4 is like every racetrack, a short distance, 3 over to turn 4, and the run back to the start-finish line. It's definitely different, and it's got these guys scrambling, getting these cars handled around here.
Not only that, but it's uphill and downhill.
Mike, I tell you what, you run into a lot of racetrack with different characteristics. There's 30-foot elevation difference from the turn 4 down to turn 1. These little V6s thrive off RPM, and they're having to work up that back straightaway. Let's take a look at the Haviland update.
It was one of those full moon Saturday nights last week at Radford, Virginia for the Granger Select 200. First, local driver Johnny Rumley started on the pole. Then Bobby Labonte, starting 21st, survived an early bump with Tom Peck, who was trying to avoid spinning Robert Presley. Labonte wasn't so lucky, though. He got tangled up with Ricky Craven on the front straightaway. Lap 135, Bobby Dotter took the lead from Rumley in a race that saw only 2 lead changes among 3 drivers. That final lead change came when Jeff Burton in number 8 passed Dotter on lap 193. Ward Burton spinning here. Kenny Wallace tried to avoid him and did to finish 8th. Just like Hickory had finished under yellow, Jeff Burton took the checkered flag, but NASCAR found non-approved parts in the rear end of his Oldsmobile, and Bobby Dotter got the win. So after 10 races, Kenny Wallace continues to hold the point lead over Joe Nemechek, Jeff Gordon, Steve Grissom, and Robert Presley.
For more details on the Jeff Burton story, let's go down to Glenn Jadd.
Well, thanks, Neil. The unapproved part that they found on Jeff Burton's car was a rear carrier assembly like the one you're looking at here. The center section that I'm indicating on the carrier that was in Jeff's car last week had a torque sensor locker in it that enabled him to drive the car in further, get a little better traction coming off the corners. However, Jeff and the crew did not know that this thing was illegal. You guys thought you were in the right all along.
Yeah, we were. We read the rule book, and the rule book stated that we could run it, and then we just got a little bit confused there on the approval process. It's something that we just didn't fully understand, and we're glad NASCAR is going ahead and doing what they got to do. We do that all year long, and everything will be good.
Well, the team needs a victory. That would have been a year since Jeff had won and since the team had won, so they're looking to get it back again this week. Now let's go back up to the front of the pack with Mark Garrow.
We've got a great day for racing today, but qualifying day was a whole nother story. Completely washed out. 2 short practices, Kenny Wallace, to get ready for this race. This place is tough enough with just getting a few laps to get dialed in.
Yeah, Nazareth is really a different racetrack. I don't know, this is a good car. This is Bobby Brown. This is my favorite race car. I think we're okay. We got about an hour of practice total, so it's going to be an interesting day. I think it's what you're going to see, who got lucky and who got their car dialed in the quickest.
Kenny Wallace is on the pole today by virtue of the fact that he is the #1 man in the Busch Grand National Series point standings, 68 points up on Joe Nemechek. We'll have more live TNN Motorsports from Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Today's exclusive coverage of the Pontiac Pacesetters 200 on TNN is being brought to you by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. The rain here at Nazareth completely washed out qualifying, so Busch Grand National drivers will start on the inside row, and Busch North Series drivers will be on the outside row. Here's how they'll stack up. Kenny Wallace from out of St. Louis, Missouri, on the pole in a Pontiac. And outside from Kennebunkport, Maine, there's Dick McCabe in the Fisher Snow Plows Buick. In row number 2, Joe Nemechek from Lakeland, Florida, the Texas Pete Chevy. And outside from Farmington, Maine, Billy Clark, the C&H Motorsports Chevy. Jeff Gordon of the Baby Ruth Ford in row number 3. He'll share that with Jamie Obey from North Ferrisburg, Vermont. Steve Grissom out of Gadsden, Alabama will start 7th in his Olds. And from Northampton, Pennsylvania, Tony Hirschman. Starting ninth, Robert Presley from Asheville, North Carolina. And alongside from Scarborough, Maine, Joe Bessie in a Pontiac. In row number 6, Bobby Labonte, the series champ out of Texas, and Jeff Berry from Norwich, Connecticut. In row number 7, Ward Burton from South Boston, Virginia in a Buick, and Latham, New York's Jeff Spraker in an Oldsmobile. In row number 8, Butch Miller from Coopersville, Michigan in an Olds, and former Modified Tour standout Mike McLaughlin from Waterloo, New York in an Oldsmobile. Tracy Leslie of Mount Clemens, Michigan, he's got an Oldsmobile, and it's a Buick for Glenn Sullivan of Westbury, New York. Todd Bodine, native of Chemung, New York, he's in a Chevrolet, and he'll share the 10th row with Chuck Bound, the former series champ, in a Pontiac. Back to row number 11, you'll find Tom Peck, a lot of Pennsylvania fans cheering the McConnellsburg native, and Ricky Craven, the Busch North champ from Newburgh, Maine. Bobby Daughter from Chicago in an Olds, and Tommy Houston from Hickory, North Carolina, share row 12. Mike Wallace is in row 13 out of Missouri with Jeff Burton from Virginia. In the 14th row, Spring Lake, Michigan's Jack Sprague and Richard Lassiter from Little Rock. In the 15th row, Jimmy Hensley's the driver du jour for Don Beverly in the 25 car, then Clifford Allison from Alabama. Ernie Irvin leads the parade of Winston Cuppers. They're way back in the 16th row. There's Kenny Schrader right alongside him, and Mike Waltrip right behind. The late IndyCar great Mark Donohue's son, David, starts this Busch Grand National race in 34th position. Then Mark Martin and Martin Truex, rookie contender. That will fill out this 36-car starting field. As they roll out of pit road, we'll take this pause from Nazareth, Pennsylvania International Raceway, and be back with the start after this. Starting the Pontiac Pacesetters 200 here at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and the series sponsored by one of those Richard Petty Pontiac Grand Prix up at the front of the field. Kenny Wallace on the pole, and here's Mark Martin's Ford Thunderbird. You'll be riding along with Mark, carrying the Winn-Dixie colors today. There's a look out that rear bumper cam, and there's our race cam on board right over Mark's shoulder. I want to thank the Winn-Dixie folks for providing our in-car camera today as Mark Martin makes his way around. See a little extra ventilation there. This day started out very cold and humid and even drizzly, but now, Neil, temperatures up around 70. The clouds are dissipating, getting a little sunshine on this racetrack. Yeah, Mike, you know, we've been up here in the rain for 2 solid days, and this morning it looked doubtful we'd even get the race in, and it's cleared up. And these guys are trying to figure out what's going on. Here's Ernie Irvan coming down pit road. He's got a problem already for the start. Looks like they're going under the hood on Ernie's car. Light is out on top of the safety car. See if they'll give him a courtesy lap. That's a bad sign, Mike. When they start, everybody's looking and not doing anything. It's a big question. It could be the ignition. See a guy jump in the window. When these cars go off like that, sometimes the ignition dies, and there's dual ignitions. They can switch it over on the backup system. We got a report from Ben Jarrett there in a moment. In the meantime, they're ready to start this race. Pace car is in. And race 11 in front of a huge crowd here in Pennsylvania. Gets the green flag, and it's Kenny Wallace into and out of turn 1 quickly. Down the short chute, and then this long sweeping turn number 2. There it is. It seems like you're in that corner about as long as you're in the turn, it's over, Neil. Mike, when we talk to the other drivers, some of them call it turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's such a long sweeping turn, and we're just taking it easy, calling 4 turns. Joe Nemechek got a good jump. He's second, looking for the lead down low. There's Jeff Gordon driving up on the inside and really got loose, having to cut the car down under someone like that. The black car with them is Billy Clark out of Farmington, Maine, one of the top Busch North runners, and he's currently in the 4th position behind Jeff Gordon. Then it's Steve Grissom and Jamie Obey, another of the Busch North drivers. Here's Nemechek going for the lead. Well, a little paint gets traded there. Yeah, they kind of leaned on there. Nemechek going for the lead. Mike, we just got word that the oil pump locked up on Ernie Irvan's car right at the start of the race. So Irvin behind the wall without turning a lap. When you first crank these cars. Trouble in one. Mike Wallace and Tom Peck. 3 other cars, including last week's winner Bobby Daughter and Mike Waltrip, Clifford Allison, all in the middle of that one. And there's outside pole sitter Dick McCabe. Boy, what a star-crossed tour he has had. That's Mike Wallace, the black car, and Dick McCabe, former Busch North champ of the old NASCAR North Tour. And he is against the fence hard in 1. First caution of the day, and it comes out quickly here on lap 3. We'll be back to Nazareth after this. It's getting to be a shirt sleeve crowd here at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Today's coverage of the Pontiac Pacesetters 200 is being brought to you by Napa, because there are no unimportant parts. Temperature. Here's a look at the top 5. Joe Nemechek leads this race over Jeff Gordon, Steve Grissom, Billy Clark, and Kenny Wallace. Say temperature starting to rise, and on track it kind of rose early. Here's a look at what happened in turn 1 on lap 3.
Mike, they were really trying to get sorted out early in the race, and there we see, it looked like Mike Wallace's car, smoke just billowing out of the back of the car as it goes down into the turn. And see if, when the smoke that much oil, it might be some oil coming in. See if this is possibly where he loses the rear end of the car. Yeah, he's got a big problem. You can see him in the car waving his hand. He knows he's got a problem, but he can't seem like he's just coming right on through there. I don't know what all the smoke was. He hasn't had a problem with it yet. That's early, just before the wreck. Yeah, here's why it was smoking. A little lick in the left rear, and I don't know if he was having a problem there, Mike, and slowing down, and the 19 car got him or what, but we saw a little bit of a problem before he had this wreck.
Here's Mike Waltrip coming around in the 30 car. Cars behind looking for a place to go. There's Bobby Daughter, the yellow car on the outside. He's going to find Mike Waltrip sliding up in his path, dart and dive. Dick McCabe slides in, and the red car is Clifford Allison.
McCabe must have been having some problem. He started way up front, and there he was. There's 3 laps in the race, and he was way back in the rear and got involved in that accident.
So let's go to Glenn Jarrett and find out the story on the first car out of this race.
Well, Ernie Irvin, you had a real quick car in practice, but you never got in the race. What happened?
Well, I tell you, one way I was kind of fortunate. They had that wreck. That's right where I was at. So, so that car was running good, and the oil pump locked up on it. Carl Wagner's built us a heck of a motor here, and evidently something went through the oiling system and locked the oil pump up. So, couldn't run without oil pressure.
Well, a dejected Ernie Irvin, but at least he's taking it home in one piece. Now let's go to Mark Garrow with Mike Wallace.
Another dejected driver is Mike Wallace. Mike, it's been a tough year. It didn't get any better today.
Oh, it was it's been terrible this year. I know we were running good, and for some reason we get on the outside of another race car out there, and he had to hit us in the left rear right through the tri-oval, which spun us around, backed us in the wall, and other cars behind us, of course, got into it. But there was just no need for it. I mean, it was early in the race. Everybody slowed up. We're on the outside of the driver, and the Daly's first 8 Oldsmobile was running great. I mean, it was just a couple laps into the race, and we would have had a good run, and just it's not going to be again. And hopefully one of these days we'll get our bad luck behind us and be able to have a good run at it.
Be another busy week for the Dick Moroso team's body man. Let's go back upstairs to Mike Joy.
Well, Mark, several of the cars involved in that incident just completed repairs, left pit road. Mike Waltrip and Bobby Daughter and Tom Peck, who was the car that got into the back of Mike Wallace, they're going into 1. And there's the sweep up going on, and you'll be able to see as these cars roll through here, this track is not all that wide as they sweep up there.
Mike, you were talking about some of the guys having problems, and each week it seems like as we do a bush race, we have a different rule on the tires. This week they can change 2 tires on a caution, and some of the guys that had a problem exercised that option, and Waltrip came in and put on a couple of tires and has been in and out. So this week they are allowed to put 2 tires per stop.
And we'll keep an eye on that. One of the big stories we started to tell you about at the top of this show is that of what will be the breakup of the Jeff Gordon and Bill Davis team. It was announced here this weekend that Gordon will leave Davis and Ford. He is one of the members of the Ford, it's not a Star Search thing, but this ladder that Michael Krenefis has brought to Ford U.S. Racing from Ford Europe. It includes Wally Dallenbach, Dorsey Schrader, Jeff, and Robbie Gordon. And this young fellow who's had such a great season this year and won Rookie of the Year last year for Bill Davis is packing his bags. At the end of the season, he will join Rick Hendrick's operation out of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a 3rd Hendrick Chevrolet Winston Cup team, a brand new team being built from the ground up specifically for Jeff Gordon. And I got comments from both Jeff and from car owner Bill Davis, who feels heartsick over this and felt like he was struck by lightning when the news hit because Gordon made the decision without consulting either Davis or Ford Motor Company or his present sponsors. First, let's get Jeff Gordon's comments.
It was the toughest decision I've ever had to make, and I'm still trying to, really, I'm going Winston Cup next year, and I think that's great, and it's a really good opportunity for me.
All of these guys on this team, there must be 15 guys, and they've all sacrificed
financially and emotionally and everything else, because we had a dream and we were on target. It was going real well for us.
Bill Davis and myself have we've gotten a very good relationship throughout the last 2 years or year and a half, and the last thing I wanted to do was leave him and leave Ford.
You know, I feel real sorry for Lee Morris and Michael Cranifant. They put as much effort, financial and emotional effort into Jeff Gordon's development as I did, and they've been kicking the teeth just as hard as I have.
Well, it really didn't have anything to do with Ford, anything to do with Chevrolet. Ford has given me so many opportunities to get involved in NASCAR and where I want to be, and it had nothing to do with them. They've treated me very, very good, and maybe somewhere down the road our paths will meet again.
It was going real well for us. We've made tremendous progress, and they've all pulled together and worked real hard, and for suddenly that wasn't where he wanted to be, and you know, I think we've done the job for him, and sure, it's going to be hard for them to come back and work as hard as they have.
One of the ironies of this situation is that Ford, Bill Davis Racing, and a major national sponsor were about to announce a multi-year deal to go Winston Cup racing with Jeff Gordon as driver, and suddenly that door slammed shut.
Mike, you know, when you sat around the garage yesterday, it rained all day, and I walked through the garage area, and there's rumblings, hey, is this really going to happen? You know, everybody's question, is it true? And then, you know, the story was broken, and it is a true deal that they are going to split up and everything. And you can almost sense it in Jeff Gordon and everybody involved. Is this really going to happen? I don't know that if he's second-guessing or what, but, I mean, it had to be a big decision for this young man. He had a bright future ahead of him and had a lot of people in his corner, and now he's going to the Hendricks, which is a good organization, too, but I'm sure it was a big challenge for him.
I'm sure it was. The majority consensus in the garage area here is that Jeff Gordon is stepping out of one of the best situations any driver has in this sport. So certainly to do so, he must see the promise of something better long-term down the road. And Bill Davis Racing will continue to be a force to be reckoned with here in the Busch Series, and likely next year in the Winston Cup ranks with Ford backing. So there will be some other fallout from this as things go along. For example, there's a story circulating in the garage that one other talented Busch driver was offered the Hendrick deal 2 weeks ago and turned it down out of respect for his present car owner. So there is a lot more to this, and I'm sure the story will continue to unfold as this season goes on. But meanwhile, there's a Busch championship to be won, and both Gordon and Davis are dedicated to that, as are the rest of the drivers in this field. 1 lap to go, and we'll go racing as you ride along with Mark Martin behind Richard Lassiter's car, the Sam Ard car, beneath the bridge at the entrance of turn number 2. Only other track on this circuit that we cover with the bridge, I believe, is Phoenix. Every other track, as this one, has a tunnel.
Yeah, they have tunnel. This one has a bridge, but in Pocono, this track is real similar to Pocono. It's just downsized a little bit with the dog legs in it and everything, but it's got these guys searching on figuring out how to get these little sixes to stay wound up around it.
You watch, I'll call it Pocono a time or two before we're done today. Okay. They're racing up there this weekend, too. The SCCA has their Pocono Sports Car Grand Prix today and tomorrow. And there's a big bicycle race here in eastern Pennsylvania. More on that later as we get set to go green for the second time today. Lap 10, and it's Joe Nemechek stepping out smartly with the lead. And there's that Thunderbird of Jeff Gordon lined up right behind him. Steve Grissom is the third-place car. Long run out of turn number 2. Now the back straightaway. Grissom trying to grab right up on him.
I tell you, Jeff Gordon and Ford, you know, at the first of the season we talked about, they were talking about they were off the pace, and the car's not slacked anything. They've really got that 6-cylinder running in it, and seems like the Busch races, we see these two guys right here get together, like Nemechek and Gordon. Here's Gordon making a move to the inside. Didn't quite get in there.
Back at turn 2. Now the backstretch. Tough to gear for this place, isn't it?
Yeah, Mike, what you get into is these little 6-cylinders we've talked about thrive on RPM. You've got to keep them wound up. Here's Gordon getting up under him right there at that part of the track. Then coming down the front straightaway, but the key is to keep the things wound up. At this track, there's one place that they turn about 8,200. The other 2 straightaways, little short straightaways, are 74. So they're bogging them down. The guy that's got enough gear to keep it wound up can run well.
So the prime passing place would be coming out at turn 2 here, down this back straightaway where the cars are going off into 3.
That's what we saw just then. We saw Gordon take a look to the inside in turn 1. We saw him take a look at 2, and then he made the pass going in the long back straightaway where he get him wound up. And coming off 4 is where he cleared it.
He has about a 2-car length advantage now with Steve Grissom taking up the second spot in the channel lock holds.
Yeah, as soon as he moved over, Grissom came along with him, and Grissom's really been a dominant force on all the short tracks we've been to lately, and this is kind of an intermediate situation, short track with a lot of power involved.
Here's a big pack further back. Jamie Obey being overlapped or being passed by, and now here is Bobby Labonte moving up in the 44 car. That'll be back at looks like about 6th position there. Robert Presley's moved away from that pack, and so is Jamie Obey. So on the outside, this is Tony Hirschman in 11. This race is for 7th place. Hirschman, very talented modified driver from Northampton, Pennsylvania, now trailing Labonte, trying to make his mark on the Busch circuit.
We go to a lot of tracks, Mike, and we talk about the preferred line on the inside, and sometimes the inside is not preferred. You can still race, but here you'll see if a guy can get the inside edge on him, he can usually beat him and kind of shove him out of the racing groove. And the passes we've seen has been able to someone get up under him and hold him off.
Back up front, Jeff Gordon, he is not extending his lead. If anything, Steve Grissom looks like he may be closing in just a little bit. Took a big chunk out of it right there.
Mike, you know, going back to the Jeff Gordon story a little bit, while these guys are running like this, I'm not so sure. This is why a lot of the questioning is going on about the kind of move Jeff Gordon made. Here's the Ford leading Busch racing and Ford total domination of Winston Cup racing right now. And I think that was a lot of the question why he would make a transition with the power that's involved in Ford Motor Company now.
Well, the questions are going to reverberate up and down pit road for some time on this one. A young driver with a long career ahead of him, making a decision because one of the reasons he gave us was the security involved. It's a 3-year deal with a number of options and some real good guarantees. But trouble in the backstretch. It's like Tony Hirschman, and now 6 cars are piled in it. Jeff Burton's number 8 car, Jack Sprague's 48. A major collision down the back straightaway at lap 18.
It looked like one car got a little out of line, then another one, then it just totally plugged up the back straightaway, and they couldn't get stopped, and everybody started running into it.
I think that first car sideways might have been the Jeff Berry car, the number 22. And there's Jeff Burton's car. Talk about a tough 2 weeks. And there is the Berry automobile.
Well, I tell you, it wadded a few of them up.
And Tony Hirschman got into that one. Got the back end of his car pretty well torn out. There is Hirschman, who has always had a beautifully prepared and turned out car and has a lot of driving talent. So we're under caution for the 2nd time today here in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. We'll be right back. Machine for Tony Hirschman.
Mike, the problem with that is the fuel cell dragging. There's a metal can holding the fuel cell, and I hope he gets stopped before he rubs the hole in. There's a rubber bladder inside there. Thank goodness he did. When that metal rubs into, he goes into the rubber bladder, and then that thing would explode. But he got it stopped. He really caved the back of that car in. That's a good example of how strong those cells are.
The way that framework's bent down, I don't believe they're going to get that one up off the ground and back to racing today. But with a flat tire, well, maybe. Let's have a look and see what happened in the back straightaway at lap 18 here.
We're already into it a little bit, Mike. Some of the cars have already turned sideways, and here's what you get into the car. This other car's going to loop back up and get into 11 cars, going to get right back up in the race groove. Right now, the track is totally plugged. Everybody's starting to try to slow down. One trying to snowball reaction. One guy stops, the other guy runs into him, and there's just nowhere to go. These other cars can continue to run into this. A little bit of fire right there out of one of the cars. Thank goodness it went out.
Yeah, the first car to spin was Jamie Obey in 41, and he got clean away. Also, Ward Burton made a tremendous move to go right through the middle of that.
Ken Schrader, I saw him go through the middle of it, Mike. He got bumped around a little on each side, but he did clear it. He was right in the middle of it also.
We want to show you that from the same angle again and focus this time, if you will, not on the cars that crashed as they hook up the Jeff Berry car, but I want you to look at the cars that missed this accident. Let's have another look here. All right, there's Jamie Obey, the first car spinning, 41. And now watch this car coming way to the right. No, I don't want to go down to the fence. No, I want to go between them. That's Ward Burton. Nice piece of driving there. Now the Berry car hits the outside wall. There's Mike McLaughlin, the gold car up on the outside.
Yep. He gets through. He got a little shot in the rear, but he made it on through there.
Here's Jamie Obey, the 41 car getting through. And Jeff Burton thought he had room. He didn't get it.
That's Ken Schrader, the 32 car. That's Schrader up there coming through the white car coming through the opening right now, right in between 8. And you tell me how he clears this. I saw Schrader come through here.
The white car.
The white car ricochets off. The black one spins out of the way. And Schrader's probably going to tell us after the race, man, you won't believe what a move I made. I don't know if he had any control of that because the rest of them was going everywhere else.
Best comment on that I ever heard was a fella came up to a driver and said, how'd you ever win that race? It was a Firecracker 400 at Daytona, and the driver made about 4 different moves inside, outside. When Victory Lane and Neil Bonnet said, wasn't that a great piece of driving? I did it all with my eyes closed.
Yes, sir. That was about the truth. I couldn't tell what was going to happen next.
That number 11 car will not be allowed to return to the racetrack per NASCAR because of the dragging fuel cell, and that's a tough break for Tony Hirschman. So he has taken that car behind the wall. It's Mother's Day tomorrow, and one of the most prevalent mothers on this circuit is Martha Nemechek, Joe's mom. He's always coming up with photographs for folks, and she's a real big booster of her son's career. So we asked Joe about Mother's Day.
A lot of guys don't get to see their moms on Mother's Day, especially when they're at the races. And luckily for me, my mom's with us, and she's here today. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Coverage of the Pontiac Pacesetters 200 is being brought to you by Napa, because there are no unimportant parts. Well, Kenny Schrader and Bobby Dotter have both made pit stops during this caution. Schrader to repair a little bit of front-end damage from that crash. Here's the way they're running. Steve Grissom is up front. Jeff Gordon, Kenny Wallace, Joe Nemechek, and Robert Presley at the front 5. Bobby Labonte, Chuck Bound, Ward Burton, Mike McLaughlin, one of the top modified drivers who's won some Busch North races and Busch races at New Hampshire, and then Todd Bodine. The way they're running at 24 out of 200 laps.
Mike, while we're looking at this, Schrader's back on pit road again. He's been doing some sheet metal work on the right front. It looked like when he went through there, he hung on one of the cars just a little bit, and he's pulled the front air dam loose just a little bit, and they're in there pop ribbing it and trying to get the thing tied back together where it won't flop back and against the tire.
If that car has a conscience, it's probably not feeling too good after what it's been through lately.
Yeah, this is the same car that Earnhardt drove at Hickory, and I promise you that's not the same sheet metal Earnhardt had. All that was torn off. Schrader said they just about had to put a new body on it, and Dale carried it back and said, I sure appreciate the use of the car. You need to fix it.
Yeah. Look at Kenny's finishes there. You saw only one top 10 finish in 4 starts here. And Nazarath hoping to improve on that. He comes off pit road. Bobby Dotter made another stop. Front end's pretty well banged up on Gino's Pizza Wagon. And let me correct something I've been doing for the last 2 shows. And yes, we have gotten mail. There has been a repeat winner on the series this year. We weren't at Bristol, so somehow it just escaped my mind that Harry Gant had won there. We knew he'd won at Richmond. We did that race here on CNN. And somehow it just escaped me, so apologies to all the Harry Gant fans. He has won 2 races. Nobody else has won more than 1.
And, Mike, I got mail, and yes, Harry Gant did win 2 races, and I'm sorry.
Riding along with Mark Martin. That's, what's it say in the car head? Is that sponsor's name, or does that say Mom? I can't tell. Wait till he comes around again. We've got Mother's Day on the range here. With these little sound bites with some of the drivers about... Says Mom. Quit weaving there, Mark. Oh, MGM brakes.
Well, let's call them.
Well, they got a plug anyway.
Yeah.
we'll call them Mom brakes. Why not? This copyrighted telecast of the Pontiac Pacesetters 200 is produced under television rights granted by Pennsylvania International Raceway, intended for the private use of our audience. Any retransmission or reuse of the pictures, accounts, or descriptions of this event without the express written consent of the Nashville Network is prohibited. 1 to go.
Yeah, we were just looking at the picture of the back straightaway. There was so many skid marks and so much trash over there. It took them a little while to clean it up, but they did give 1 to go this time, and we'll turn them loose 1 more time. Yeah, that's all that expensive tires over there scratched out on the racetrack, and pretty good indication how everybody was stacking it up and then one big wreck.
I wonder if Ward Burton and Schrader's pulse have returned to normal after the dodge and dive they did to get through there. There's one other big race here today. This is kind of like Lanier again with the 3 big races. The SCCA's at Pocono, and the Busch and the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour is here as well at Nazareth today. And the Tour DuPont is here in the Pocono from Stroudsburg up to Mount Pocono and back. Not at, but around the raceway area. Greg LeMond is the leader in that world-class bicycle race. Here's Mark Garrow.
Well, Steve Grissom told me just moments before the race that if it stays cloudy, he will be able to go straight to the front. If he has to put on his colored sunglasses or, of course, his colored shield, then that's going to be a whole other story. That'll be bad news for Steve Grissom. But he did say if it stays cloudy, which it is right now, he'll be looking good. Let's go back for the green flag.
On the outside of leader Steve Grissom is Martin Truex in the Don Ling car running for Rookie of the Year. And he drops to the inside, and that will separate the leaders and give Grissom plenty of running room all by himself.
Mike, when someone makes a statement like that, it usually means they've got the car set up loose. You know, the track is cool, the track is tight. If the sun comes out, he's probably concerned about getting looser. Right now, he's in a kind of a neutral position. He's able to drive away. But if the sun comes out, I'm sure he'd be worried about getting car getting too loose.
So Steve Grissom, who was leading, coming to the caution. With the green on this restart, Kenny Wallace about to lose second place here. On the outside comes Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough pass to make, but he pulled it off.
That's a working race car.
Yep.
Gordon going right back after Grissom. Kenny Wallace, Joe Nemechek, the yellow and white car, and then Robert Presley.
Kenny Wallace was real strong in the very first race. He started on the pole, but he looked like he could pull away. Now he's dropped back a little bit, but when Nemechek, Nemechek was strong early. He's fell back right behind Kenny. It looks like the two dominant cars are going to be the Ford with Jeff Gordon and Grissom right here.
And right in that pack two now, Bobby Labonte and Chuck Bound have joined that second pack, which now stands at 5 cars. And Ward Burton coming up. He'll be right behind this group. Looking at Labonte and Bound. 6th and 7th.
There's Chuck Bound getting the left side wheel right off in the dirt. He's got the car working good. He's really pulling down low.
Back once again to turn 1. There's a little concrete ripple strip there. Nemechek had a look inside going to turn number 2, but that didn't seem to work. Back up front. And Jeff Gordon has reeled in Grissom.
Looks like Gordon's car might work good in shade too. This cloudy condition, because he's really winding him in.
And there's that second pack of 5, about to be 9 cars. Kenny Wallace, Joe Nemechek, Robert Presley, then Bobby Labonte and Chuck Bound. And catching them are Ward Burton and Mike McLaughlin. The gold car. And then Mark Martin.
Nemechek's car seems to be able to go down a little bit lower, getting in the corner. He keeps taking a look inside of Kenny Wallace, but this track with a unique cornering, it's hard for him to get a long enough run to pass him, but he was able to pull under him several times in a row.
But now Robert Presley is up and under Nemechek.
And looks like he might be able to get up there close enough to challenge him for that position.
Not at turn 1. Here's turn 2. Presley is there. Nope. Got his nose carved off.
You know, Mike, we keep talking about a 4-turn racetrack. We've got 6 cameras. We can't cover all the corners. I don't know. It looks to me like there's more than 4 turns to it.
I wouldn't have too much trouble counting 5 or so. Maybe 6. Look at cars out of the race. Ernie Irvin, who did not start this race. Mike Wallace, Jack Sprague, and Tony Hirschman to accidents. And now Jeff Spraker has taken his car behind the wall. Well, it's GM against Ford. Right at the front of the field.
Yeah, and it looks like, you know, Jeff got up there and put a little bit of heat on Grissom, and he just pulled back away from him again.
And here comes the sun popping out along the front straightaway. See it gleam off the paint job of Steve Grissom's car. And we'll see what this may do to his handling.
Yeah, he was concerned about it. We'll have to see if it does affect the way his car drives.
Back about 10th spot, Mark Martin inside of Mike McLaughlin in that second pack there. Here they come through the speed shot. Right back of this group. There they are. And Martin this time denied the pass. And Bobby Donner well back in the field running with Billy Clark. We'll be right back to Nazareth. There's a lot of country music fans and stock car viewers. And we're under caution. For the 3rd time today, Martin Truex spun up in turn number 4 and hit the outside wall. No other cars involved and no damage. That car will continue in the race. We'll go back to green here in just a moment. Quickly, let's check with Glenn Jarrett down on pit road.
Well, I'm standing with Bill Davis, and all difference has been put aside today, Bill. The car looks awfully strong.
Yeah, the car was real good. Steve was setting a heck of a pace there. I thought we'd just back off and let him go for a while, follow him. The car's perfect. It's going real well. You know, this team's all about winning, and that's what we do.
Okay, they're just sitting and waiting. Let's go for the start.
Spoken like a classy guy, which he is. And if that car is that strong, it could be bad news for the rest of this field. As Steve Grissom takes the green flag and hustles out of turn number 1. Robert Presley down to the inside on Kenny Wallace as they go to turn number 2. And he'll make the pass. Good move by Presley. New third-place man, dropping Kenny Wallace back to 4th.
You know, it looked like when the restart, Grissom was able, just as he went up through the gears, to pull away from Jeff Gordon. Now Jeff closed him back up after just one lap. So the 31 car's got a lot of motor in it.
And we're just about where we were when we went to caution. Those two cars out in front of the field, and a snarling pack of now a dozen stacked up behind them.
With configurations racetrack, you got to just keep nipping at the guy, nipping at him, stay right up under him, and then try to make it down that long back straightaway. Going in turn 3 right now, the long back straightaway. And here's where he wants to try to drive up under him. And there's Gordon. He's got it cranked up under him. But no matter if he can get under him right here, then we come through this turn 1, you just about got to give that position back. You saw Grissom just say, okay, you got it. He might want it back the next lap, but you got to give it to him right through that part.
I didn't mean to chuckle as you said that, but the way you described it, I thought you were driving the car.
I used to do that.
That's exactly what happened. Good move by Jeff Gordon. It gets him the lead. Credit Professor Bonnet.
Yeah, but the only problem with that now, Grissom can do the same thing the next lap.
All right. We'll see. Look at Robert Presley in the Alliance all move right up on Steve Grissom now. Then it's Kenny Wallace, Bobby Labonte, Chuck Bound, Mark Martin has moved up a couple notches. Joe Nemechek, Todd Bodine, Ward Burton. This pack just tied it. They took off on the restart, 2 of them, but now the pack is coming back up to them.
You know, Presley's getting right in the middle of it. Mike seems like all these Busch races that Presley is always a factor. You know, it seems like he's had a lot of bad luck, but as long as that car's running, he's right in the hunt. We've seen him get laps down and be able to come back, but he's able to keep that car front. Here's Grissom trying to work on Gordon for the lead again.
And it looks like, Neil, at that 7,000 to 7,400 RPM range, he may not have quite as much as Jeff Gordon.
No, at that part of the racetrack, they're not getting the maximum amount of motor. A Ford is known for torque. It's known to have bottom end more so than the Chevrolets do. Through the little short part of the racetrack, he seems to have a little bit more for him. They turn these motors 8,200, and that little part there, they're just not getting maximum power.
We're a little further back in the field now with Mark Martin, and then Chuck Bound and Joe Nemechek. Martin is 6th.
That traffic, Mike, you know, with a starting by the point system, you know, Schrader, Little Waltrip, and everybody else, a lot of the Winston Cup guys started in the rear. Mark Martin's car's got a good car, but he had to start way back in the rear also.
We'll see how they fare coming up through. Ken Schrader and Mike Waltrip have both been involved in collisions. Ernie Irvin's car, the oil pump locked up on the pace lap. He did not get to run. Steve Grissom hounding Jeff Gordon, who on the track has shown a surprising amount of maturity at 20 years of age. Strapped into a sprint car at the age of 14. He's come on up through. He won pole positions this year and a race. Picked up his first career win earlier this season in Atlanta. Has 5 career poles. Most recently 2 races ago at Lanier.
Seems like Grissom's able to maintain a little bit closer line to him now. When Gordon made the pass, he followed him real close to this end of the racetrack that we're on now. And if you can stay close there, you've got a little bit better chance on the back straightaway. Before he was too far back. He's up close enough now, but they're coming up on a lap car getting in 3. They're going to have to go out around the lap car, and that might change what would normally happen there.
Boy, Gordon has to go way wide. That's the Billy Clark car out of Maine.
And there's what we were talking about, Mike. That part of the track there, one guy can make it through there on the inside. Look how much that cost Grissom to run up on that lap car at that point in the racetrack. He had to just get out of gas and follow the lap car through that area, and he's back 10, 15 car lengths. Or maybe now, straightaway.
Sure, and now look at the lead. Big difference.
That's that 6-owner. Take your foot out of it. Might as well give it a little while to come back.
A little further back, Todd Bodine has made some great runs up through the pack. He's now up to 7th spot and has done it just kind of one car at a time, methodically. This is kind of a hometown race for him. The Frank Cece-based team is in New York State, just over the Pennsylvania line. And so they've got a lot of fans here today.
Ward Burton has just came down pit road. He's had some kind of problem. He's smoking. He's headed to the pits.
Boy, So he was running right up among the top 6 or 7 after dodging that lap 18 incident on the backstretch. Hood is up on his car. Todd Bodine having a good run here.
He's up in 7th place right now.
Chasing Kenny Wallace hard. And Frank Cicione, Clyde McLeod wrenched. Machine. And we're back up front with the leaders once again. And Steve Grissom, he's able to close up on Gordon, but
that's the way racing is a lot of times. You're able to catch a guy, but catching him and passing him is something else. And especially when you get on the track with some characteristics, it's certainly by no means this track hard to get around, but it just dictates you have 1 or 2 places you can pass. There he's ran him down from 15 car lengths back, and he's all over him again.
Grissom looking to the inside. There he goes.
Yeah, he takes a look to the inside. That's exactly where he got past before.
They skate up a good bit there in 3. And out of 4, Grissom has the line. Now turn 1 and lots of lap cars dead ahead. 3 of them, and they're all over the racetrack.
And all over the racetrack. They were about 3 wide, and right here, all you do is when you're in the lead car, you just throw your hand up and say, man, slow down. Let's get through this stuff, and we'll go back to racing.
Now they will. Here comes the second pack, playing Dodgem cars.
Presley made it through traffic real well, and he closed in on it.
So Grissom hauls them off the corner once again. Back to start finish, 52 of 200 laps complete.
Right here as they go through this area, they're fixing to come up on Mike McLaughlin. He's had a problem. He's coasting along on the inside of the racetrack. I don't know what the problem is.
And he was in the top 10. Let's check with Mark Garrow. Mark?
Ward Burton's Waltley Big H Buick is now playing up. He takes off. They had a problem. Something came up off the racetrack and hit the oil cooler, causing oil to leak and, of course, go onto the rear tire. And he had to come in and get it fixed.
And here's Mike McLaughlin just kind of trolling around to bring that car, Mike Ricci car, to pit road.
And he just barely made it. I was concerned if he could make it all the way back around, but he did make it to the pits and not bring out a caution.
He's a very talented driver. They've been running a kind of short schedule based on sponsorship and on where they think they can run well, and he's won some races at New Hampshire. And that car will go to the garage. So McLaughlin out of the race. Jeff Gordon closing in on Steve Grissom for the lead. Was asked about his mom's influence on his young but already lengthy racing career.
She's been the biggest supporter of my racing and has gave me every bit of confidence that I have in myself, and she's done everything for me in racing that I could ever imagine.
Goodbye. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil. Add more life to your car. Pit road, a busy place here as we are under the 4th caution of the day. Again, a single car incident. This man, Jamie Obey, former Busch North champion in the Budweiser Buick, broke a track bar entering turn number 4 and slid up along the wall.
Yeah, you can see the damage to the right rear above where they're putting the tire and where he got in the wall. It didn't do a whole lot of damage, but they've got to fix the track bar. Also, Kenny Wallace and a lot of the cars that were in up front stopped and got the 2 tires that they were allowed to do on this caution.
Kenny Wallace, Chuck Bound, Jimmy Hensley, and Tracy Leslie were on pit road. There's the Billy Clark car, which is also in, and so is Clifford Allison. Neil, explain track bar for us.
There's a bar on the rear of the rear, on the back of the rear, and these cars have coil springs. And what it does, it keeps the rear end centered on the car. It's a bar that goes from the frame down to the rear end housing. So as the car works up and down, it allows that rear end to stay centered under there. Movement of that bar high or low determines putting bite in the car also. So it does 2 functions. It centers the rear end, plus it adds bite to the car.
I think that's what the sporty car guys are called panhard rod, but
that's exactly
that's
panhard rod.
Mark Garrow?
Well, Robert Presley is in. He's been running strong. Ricky Case is on the jack, and of course the Pearson brothers. Ricky on the front, Eddie on the back, go to the right side to change the tires. They're having a little bit of a problem as Ricky Pearson now looking a little closer at the right front of the Presley car, but he's down and away. Robert Presley back to the hunt.
The Alliance Training Center's old in the thick of things here. Give a call, too, to Bobby Daughter. His car's got a banged-up front end, but is still on the lead lap. And add Jamie Obey, the Budweiser Buick, to your cars that are out of the race. And one of those, Jack Sprague, is reported working on the car behind the wall and may come back after crash damage at lap 18. While we're still under caution, we'll take this break from Pennsylvania International Raceway at Nazareth and the Pontiac Pacesetters 200. Pace car is in. Steve Grissom will lead them down. That's going to be Bobby Dotter up on the outside.
There goes that big jump again, Mike, on the restart. He really pulls out from these guys, but they've been able to wind him back in.
And this time there is no breakaway from the first two. Look who's right with them. Mark Martin and Dixie Ford is right with the two leaders. This should now get interesting.
Yeah, you know, Martin started all the way in the rear of this pack, and he didn't just benefit from this past caution. He was already up there working on them. Here they are side by side. That's right where he made the pass before, coming off the fourth turn.
And he does it again. Now, will the door stay open, and can Mark Martin follow through? He does. And it's Ford 1-2, Oldsmobile 3, and Chevrolet 4. This looks a lot like a road course with all right-hand turns.
Yeah,
left-hand.
There's very few straightaways. The straightaways are so short that one back straightaway is the only place they can work.
Back to the front straightaway in the tri-oval of this track. And turn one. Very short straightaway and back to turn two.
Mike, anytime I got to a part of the racetrack where I had to lift out of gas, I always come to the corner.
Trouble at one. Billy Clark spun it, looped it, smacked the wall, and ends up against the fence.
And swatted it again before he stopped. He hit it about twice. He'd crank it up.
Clifford Allison was right behind him at the time of incident. Well, he's moved the nose on that over about a foot.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing that you'll see a car torn up that bad and a guy reach over, hit the starter switch, and they'll crank. And, you know, you think they can move, but that thing, I believe, is history right now.
Billy Clark has raced for years in New England. And here, you don't bring him back to the garage until there's nothing left to run.
Well, he can take that one back to the garage, I believe.
Or somebody may take it there for him. Tough break for Billy Clark, who started up front by virtue of the point standing starting order here. He's out of it, and we're under caution again. 200 is being brought to you by new Armor All tire foam. Just spray and walk away. As you look at the farm country in springtime here in eastern Pennsylvania, Billy Clark walked away from his Chevrolet as it gets escorted back to the garage area. Here's Glenn Jarrett.
Well, thanks, Mike. A lot of activity going on down here. The cars that made pit stops on the previous caution period, particularly Kenny Wallace, the 25 car, Jimmy Hensley, and a couple others, came back in this time to get left side tires. Meanwhile, up at the front of the pack, the two lead cars, with the three lead cars now, including Mark Martin, but number one car, the 31 car, Steve Grissom and Mark Martin, they all say their cars are perfect. They all want to wait until after halfway, after 100 laps, before they make their caution flag, if at all possible. They want to make this race on one stop. Chuck Bound charged to the front early, fell back. He's got a real serious problem. Car's loose getting in, pushing, coming off. They took about 6 rounds of wedge out of it to try it, but they don't hold much hope for him. So these caution periods are giving these guys a lot of times to adjust these cars. We might see some closer racing now.
Well, we'll see as we go back to green here. It looks like just a couple of laps as they clean up down that straightaway coming out of turn number 1. We're staying down in eastern Pennsylvania, where it's the 30th annual running of the shad up the Lehigh River. Big fishing tournament going on there, and the annual Shad Derby up in my hometown of Windsor, Connecticut as well as TNN Explores America. If you ever owned the Reading Railroad playing Monopoly, well, now you can go and ride the real thing. The Blue Mountain and Reading Railroad near Hamburg, Pennsylvania, has a beautiful 26-mile, 90-minute scenic train ride through the hills. So you can hook up behind some 3,000 horsepower and ride the rails as TNN Explores America.
These guys are getting ready to ride the rail again, Mike. They gave them one to go the last time by. And what I'd like to see myself on the start of this race, we've seen Grissom really be able to accelerate coming up through the gears. He's got the two Fords in front of him now. The question, can he get back around them on the restart?
Let's have a look at what brought out this caution, the single car incident to Bill Clark down in turn number 1.
Get a little bit of help here. That black car got nosed by the car from the rear there. Clifford. That was Clifford. He's trying to get under, and they got together, and boy, he smacked the wall, and he wasn't over. He went out, and he came back and hit it again, so he did a lot of damage to that car.
Tough break for Bill Clark. Green flag at lap 66 of 200. 2 Fords and an Oldsmobile out front. Then Bobby Labonte's Chevrolet, then Todd Bodine having a good run here. followed by Joe Nemechek. Long turn 2. Now back straightaway.
Yeah, there's one car pulled inside, waving his hand, trying to get that out of the way. Everybody was able to get around him.
Leader's a little more strung out this time.
Yeah, you know, I thought Grissom might have something for him on the start of the race, but it looks like these 2 Fords have really got it rolling now. Jeff Gordon just almost brushed the wall coming off forward then.
Gordon out front and pulling away just a little bit.
Okay, Mark Martin's really gotten to where he's got a lot of ability to be able to sit there and save that race car. You know, he won Martinsville the other day by saving the tires, saving the brakes, and being there at the end. He came from dead last, and he's up there with the leaders, and right now he seems to be content to either stay in second or maybe he just can't handle Jeff Gordon. I don't know, but he doesn't seem to be pressing the issue as much as he did when he came from the rear.
Pole sitter Kenny Wallace has dropped back to about 15th position. Jimmy Hensley challenges him there at turn number 2. Wallace calling into Steve Bird and the crew, telling him the car is really, really loose.
Yeah, and they must have a big problem because he just stopped and had 4 tires. He's got 2 tires the time before, 2 the last time, so he's sitting on fresh rubber. If he could go, he should be able to do it right now.
That 64 is the Auto Palace car of Joe Bessie out of Maine, and there's trouble in the backstretch. See Richard Lassiter pulling away there in the Innkeeper car. And that'll put us under caution for the 6th time today at lap 70. When we talk about Calamity Corner, Neil, we get Calamity straightaway here.
Yeah, it's unusual to see so much problem down the straightaway. It usually creates, I think what we're seeing is these people trying to nose under. Every accident's almost been where a guy gets his nose up under him and doesn't back out, doesn't let him go. So they're kind of turning each other around every now and then.
Tom Peck is on pit road with the hood up as we begin this caution period. And we'll be back with more from the Pontiac Pacesetters 200 at Pennsylvania International Raceway right after these messages. We'll go back to green next time by here in Nazarath, Pennsylvania. Jeff Gordon leading. Ran here last year in his rookie season, finished 6th. He's out there in front of Steve Grissom, who has 2 top 5 and 3 top 10 finishes here in his 4 appearances, including a runner-up finish last year. Mark Martin, of course, is right in there amongst the top 3. Martin has been here only once and did poorly. Here's Jack Sprague. He's back after the lap 18 accident, trying to pile up some Busch Grand National points.
That end of his car looked pretty good at that first shot, but this is the other end of it. They just got the radiator, just bungee cords holding another radiator, and then he's just trying to finish it for the points.
Well, Neil, maybe he can stay and run the modified race after.
Open wheel, he's ready.
Kind of looks like one. Jeff Gordon almost overhauled the pace car, and Ward Burton's going to get a lap back here. And maybe not for long. Jeff Gordon looks on the inside of him. No, not there. How about here? Right in the middle of the corner. Drives right underneath him and gone.
And the problem is the door's open, and he's going to go for an opportunity to get that lap back probably 4th in line before they get in this next turn.
Mark Martin and Steve Grissom pull up and try to gain ground on the leader once again. And Burton will stay at least 1 lap down.
Enabled Jeff Gordon to pull away from Mark Martin and Grissom a little bit. This was about the difference they had before. Mark never could close up on him. Maybe he could pull back and race him to the lead.
Grissom trying to get down to the bottom of the racetrack there. Catch up to Mark Martin, but nobody is catching Jeff Gordon. Probably getting into that race car has been the best thing that's happened to Jeff Gordon today. The attention from the media and other competitors coming over to talk to him about his announcement and his future. He's been under a lot of pretty intense pressure this weekend.
Speaking of pressure, that's what Mark Martin needs to do. He needs to get up there if at all possible and put a little pressure on Jeff. See if he can do anything with him.
Here's Ward Burton behind Bobby Labonte. Scoring reports Burton has 5 laps back. Battle back in 5th position. Joe Nemechek pulling inside the lap car of Burton here at turn 2. And he'll take that Todd Bodine up ahead of Labonte. And then Nemechek.
This Schrader, he's worked his way up a little bit in the traffic. He started way back in the rear, was in that wreck, and he was up to about 7th a while ago.
And Mike Waltrip, who was in the first incident of the day, still up and running well, still on the lead lap. Get to run down here in a bit of cars on the lead lap. We've had quite a bit of shuffling.
Boy, Mark Martin is getting the left side of his race car all the way off the racetrack through that part of the track. And he's able to close on Jeff Gordon just a little bit. You see him right there getting below that line. There's a line painted around the racetrack. Boy, here he comes. He's able to make a run at it.
Turn 1, and Martin has the line. It's way down on the ripple strip and makes the pass. Grissom closes it right up, and there they are. Todd Bodine and Bobby Labonte closing in now. And it's a 5-car battle.
Boy, it's been quite a run for Mark. As we talked about earlier, he had to go by points, and they didn't have many. And he started right on the rear of the field. And he hasn't pitted yet. He's worked his way all the way from the rear.
Now Mark Martin is in front of Jeff Gordon, and he's going to pull away to about a car length or two. Gordon continues to hold on. Grissom, Bodine, and Labonte.
Mike, you mentioned earlier about this being similar to a road course. Mark Martin is an excellent road course racer. This track is so flat. Somebody that's got that good feel can really run good well here, and Mark is really taken out on it now.
Look at that pack of GM cars right behind the 2 Fords. 3 of them stacked up there. Grissom, Bodine, and Labonte.
We talked to Mark Martin before the race, and he was really kind of crying the blues. He said, you know, I just raced here one time, and we came this time, and it's rained for a day, and we didn't get on track. And I was on track for 1 hour this morning, and he was questioning whether he had the car like he wanted. He said, I don't think I have the car the way it needs to be. Some days you hit it, and some days you miss, and it looked like today he really made a good judgment on the chassis setup.
He's hit it well. Steve Grissom just got boxed in behind a lapped car there. Really had to come out of the throttle. He had the move on Jeff Gordon, but Gordon made the lapped car a pick, and Grissom had to roll out of the throttle and just got back in line. Here's the man they're chasing. 6 career victories, and a number of those came for Bill Davis. He left that ride, and Jeff Gordon hopped in it. The number 1 car was then blue and sponsored by Carolina Ford Dealer.
That's the biggest lead we've seen of the day. Once Mark got away from him, he's driving on.
Well, it would be avenging of his last appearance here. He finished 35th in his only Nazarath run. Also, Mark Martin looking for that Goodies Invitational victory and the $5,000 bonus that goes with it. Ooh, squarely is Grissom. He's in trouble. He cut a tire, Neil?
It's got to be a tire the way the car is doing with him. The left side seemed to be up. He's shaking the car himself. I'll tell you why he's shaking. He's almost acting like it's fuel. He's checking to see if he's got a tire, but it quit. You know, there's no way the car can be out of fuel unless there's a pickup problem. But he's certainly shaking it around like he's shaking it right now like he's trying to get some more fuel in the car.
That's it. Boy, at first I thought he cut a tire, but then, like you say, he just kept working it. And he'll come to pit road. Unless it wasn't full to start.
Something just gave him trouble right at one time. And he's either shaking it around, trying to see if it's the tires. I can't imagine if I were sitting in the car, I'd say, hey, I'm trying to get some fuel, shake it back around here, but there's no way he's out now unless he has a pickup problem.
Todd Bodine is going by Jeff Gordon, who has been black flagged by NASCAR. Mark Martin had reported that car seemed to be leaking some sort of fluid, and now Gordon's been black flagged.
Mike, that really makes sense because he fell back so quickly. There's Grissom going behind a wall while we're talking about that. But, you know, once Mark Martin got around him, he drove off. And then all of a sudden, everybody was falling back behind Jeff Gordon. Maybe he was putting down enough liquid that he was messing up everyone behind him.
A little different situation than Lanier, where Gordon got black flagged. Here's Glenn Jarrett.
A lot of activity going on down there right now, Mike. The 31 car of Steve Grissom, everybody's left. I'm standing in the pits. There's nobody here but me. He stripped something in the drivetrain. They're taking the car behind the wall to try to repair that. The problem with Jeff Gordon's car is the NASCAR official came up and told them that they saw some smoke coming from the car. It is, they think, rear-end smoke. It is getting bad enough that it's getting oil on the racetrack. They got to bring him in and take a look at it. So the 2 of the 3 cars up front had troubles all at once.
Well, if it's rear-end smoke, look at that back bumper, Neil. That's as clean as a whistle.
And, you know, usually when they got smoke, it's visible. Where there's smoke, there's fire. They don't see anything right now. And usually if there's a problem, right back where that advertisement, where the rear bumper guard is, it'll suck it right up behind that rear spoiler. And where that guy's got that overflow can plugged in, if it's leaking oil, it's usually just coated right there.
Now, usually you don't want to have a white rear bumper because if you are leaking something, it'll show to everybody. But here, well, if there is a leak, that's not where it's going. Now they're under the hood.
I tell you what, if the sponsors put up enough money, they'll paint them any color.
Let's go back to Glenn.
Well, now we're in Jeff Gordon's pits, which is right next to Steve Grissom's. There's something wrong with the engine. When Jeff brought the car in, had a real funky sound to it. They opened the hood, a lot of smoke came out of it. It just popped and sputtered a couple times. He finally had to shut it off. They got something major wrong with the engine now. They're up under the car. It could be something in the oiling system, the oil pump or something. Pulling the left front tire off the car right now to get a closer look at it.
A tough break for a car that was running extremely well here. Led a good portion of this race. With Steve Grissom behind the wall.
Mike, you know, they said there was something wrong stripping the drivetrain. You know, in the Winston Cup Series, all we've heard lately is stripping drive flanges for putting camber in these rear ends. Not only is it done in the Winston Cup Series, these Busch guys are putting that same camber in these rear ends, trying to get a hold of the racetrack. And in turn, he might have tore up a drive flange or something, or axle or something like that.
Meanwhile, this man runs along uncontested, much as he did at Martinsville when a lot of those drivers were having rear-end problems. Of course, a different team, different operation, and different series here today as the Winston covers are off. And some of these drivers chose to come here to Nazareth and race in the Busch Grand National.
One thing that's going to have to happen here shortly, maybe we can get one of our pit guys to go find out, is when Mark Martin is going to pit. They decided not to pit and stay out in the lead since they were so far back. But we're up to lap 92 right now, and they're going to have to be thinking about pitting these cars before long.
Hey, is that right with Mark Martin? Is that Todd Bodine who has caught him and racing him for the lead? The action heats up here at Nazareth as we ask Mark Martin about his mom's influence on his racing career.
My racing, she went to every race the first 3 years that I raced locally there in Arkansas. Once she saw that the race cars were built with roll cages and were real safe, she was a great race fan.
Pontiac Pacesetters 200 is being brought to you by AC Delco. It's like buying time. Mark Martin continues to lead here in the Winn-Dixie Ford. Todd Bodine running in the second spot. Bobby Labonte in third. Let's check with Mark Hero.
I just had a chance to talk to crew chief Sammy Houston on the Winn-Dixie Ford of Mark Martin. He said if it stays green, they will pit between lap 115 and 120. Those are the laps to take a look at. If they get a caution before that, he wouldn't mind coming in, but he says they can stay out there that long. We're also going to get a quick word with Clyde McLeod, the crew chief on the Hungry Jack car of Todd Bodine. Todd closes in, falls back, closes in, falls back. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's pretty good, Mark. We're just kind of trying to conserve a little gas now because we need to stop about lap 105 or 6, so we're getting close.
That's Clyde McLeod. He'll have to stop, it appears, earlier than Mark Martin.
And for an update on the Jeff Gordon car, let's check with Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Mike, I'm standing here. They're pushing Jeff behind the pit wall. Jeff awfully good run early on there. What happened to the car?
I don't know. You know, it started smoking, and I really didn't even realize that they were telling me on the radio. And, you know, it wasn't all the temperature gauges, the oil pressure gauge was fine, but evidently it just pushed the water right out of it, so something must have happened inside. Might have blown a head gasket or something. It's unfortunate. Baby Ruth Thunderbird is running really strong. You know, Mark and me and Grissom were all going back and forth there. It's going to be a heck of a race.
For a guy that had an awful lot on his mind, you were doing a terrific job on the racetrack.
Well, that just goes to show that this team and this driver is going to give it 100% for the rest of the season, no matter what happens.
Jeff Gordon out of the race. Up front, things are heating up in heavy lap traffic. Mark Martin and Todd Bodine as they split the 67 car of David Donahue, second-generation driver, and the Joe Bessie car.
Mike, you know, as you were talking earlier, we see Bodine able to really close up. Right now, he's putting a lot of heat on him, and then all of a sudden, he'll just drive away. Mark can get away from him. And they say they're conserving fuel with the 34 car, but boy, every now and then, he really makes a strong run on Mark.
There's the 1-2 punch.
while you're mentioning 1-2, it's lap 102, and he said he had to have fuel at 105. So, you know, in bush racing, you can usually just keep running because they have a lot of cautions. They've stretched it now, and they might have to pay the price of stopping on the green.
Here's our Napa Field standing update. See where the drivers you follow in this series are running at halfway, 100 laps. That's the way they stood. Now, once we get down out of the top 10, Kenny Wallace on back, some of these drivers have made pit stops under caution and have their fuel to finish the race.
Mike Waltrip coming by, still running. He ran good at the first race, got in that and had that problem. He's been working his way back up.
Well, let's go back in the garage with Glenn Jarrett.
Well, we're sitting alongside of Steve Grissom. Early problem there, Steve. What happened to your car?
I don't know, Slim. He's got an actual drive plate. They're trying to figure it out right now. But they had those kind of like those that feel running pretty good. You know, the motor runs good, car works good. It takes a couple laps after a restart to get going. Just racing, that's all you can say.
Well, one thing he's got to be concerned about now is whenever that drivetrain slipped, it turned the tack up over 10,000 RPM, so you have to keep an eye on that when he does go back out.
Oops. Yeah, you know, that was the same problem, Mike, that they've been having with the drive plane stuff and the drive axles with these camber and these rear ends. And when that thing busts loose, that little motor zings right on over there. And even if he gets the drive plane fixed, he's probably hurt the engine.
But these big, heavy race cars, when they go into the corner and the body rolls on the suspension, the tires aren't standing straight up or down, so you camber that rear end. You camber the axle tube so that in the middle of the corner, the tire's standing straight up and down where you need all the rubber on the pavement.
It's real easy to see, Mike, when you walk up to one of these race cars and look at the front end setting on them. The right front wheel's laid way over. I mean, it's laid over 3 or 4 degrees because the car rolls over in the corner so bad. You just walk up and see it in the front ends, and there's no way to do it in the rears without bending the rear end housings. These guys have started doing it, and they've started tearing up a lot of equipment. The key is it's real, real fast, but how far can you go without really damaging stuff?
Well, the report from the garage is that Steve Grissom was running only 3/4 of a degree of camber, and usually the cars that were having problems at Martinsville were running 2.5 to 3 degrees.
Yeah, but the key is these rear ends were made that they're full floating rear ends. You can take the axle out of this car and hold it in your hand, and the rear end sensor, you should be able to slide in there real easily. These things are in a bind when you put them at any degree. If they're not zero, they're in a bind.
Watching Kenny Wallace here and Jimmy Hensley back in the Don Beverly car this week. Winston Cuppers have the week off. We'll tell you that up at Indy, they have yet to put cars on the racetrack. They're trying to qualify for the pole up there, but they've had a lot of rain, and water keeps seeping up through the asphalt as a result of that rain. So as of the last report, and that was about 5 to 10 minutes ago, they had not turned a wheel there today.
And I would say at 230 miles an hour, you do not need anything seeping through the racetrack.
No, sir.
Unbelievable the speeds they're running.
Jimmy Hensley having a good run here today. Now, he and Kenny Wallace are 2 of the cars that stopped for fuel and tires under caution. So pit stops under green should be coming up here shortly. Before they do, let's take this pause from Nazarath. Here's the way they're running. We'll be right back. Cars are on the lead lap, led by Mark Martin in the Winn-Dixie Ford. Now, you can see that Todd Bodine has dropped back a good bit, but has not yet made his pit stop.
I've never known a racer to tell us, not a fib, but not to tell us the truth. They said they were going to pit on lap 105, and it's lap 114, and both of these guys are still going. So they're stretching the fuel. The only problem you have with that, at this size racetrack, if it runs out going down the front straightaway, you're going to lose so much time coasting back around. So but at this point, what they do is they tell the driver to watch the fuel gauge and wait to feel that thing miss a little bit, and it's up to the driver to make the call.
Nobody was looking for any of those 6 caution flags we've had so far, but there are a couple of guys wouldn't mind seeing one now. There's one of them, Mark Martin. So Martin, the race leader, and we see a bit of activity in his pit. The pit board is out. Let's stay with Mark Martin here as there goes Todd Bodine past to take the lead. Mark Martin will make his gas stop here at lap 116.
I believe he's out of gas. He's not coming in at that speed on purpose. He was way too slow down the back straightaway. I can't help but think he maybe ran out of fuel coming down through there.
And as they fuel the car, they'll put tires on it. And Todd Bodine, who owns 1 Busch Grand National victory that came nearly 1 year ago at Dover Downs, Delaware, in the Hungry Jack car, is the new leader. First can. Half around to bite. Here's Glenn.
Well, we're waiting. We're in Todd Bodine's pit waiting on him to come in, but he's still on the racetrack going around. The crew got ready 2 laps ago. They're wondering what's going on. He's stretching as far as he can.
Let's hope he doesn't stretch it too far. Have to run that thing on biscuit dough for a couple of laps. Well, there they are. Clyde McLeod's crew waiting for Todd Bodine.
You know, we just watched Mark Martin make his pit stop. You know, he had to do it on the green, and it cost him almost 2 laps because of having to go so slow and so slow out, in and out of the pits that now he's almost 2 laps down.
So the youngest of the Bodine brothers from Chemung, New York, has the lead in this one, and it's going to be a very partisan crowd toward Todd Bodine. This race is a doubleheader with the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour, where all 3 of the Bodine brothers made their mark.
I thought I just saw the car of Mark Martin pull the inside as he came by.
He pulled to the inside and went that second lap down, Neil.
Yeah, he sure did. He's 2 laps down right now.
And he's not really back up to speed.
I don't know what that was about, but he pulled over, now it seems like he is able to get the car back up in contention.
Well, when he made his pit stop, there were 13 cars on the lead lap, and he is now 2 laps down. So Todd Bodine, the leader. Bobby Labonte is second. Robert Presley is third. Chuck Bown is now fourth. Joe Nemechek fifth. Mike Waltrip, haven't seen much of him today, but he's up to sixth. Tommy Houston is seventh. Tracy Leslie is eighth. Butch Miller is ninth. Kenny Wallace is 10th. He's already made his stop, and so has Kenny Schrader, or rather, Jimmy Hensley and Kenny Schrader. The last 3 cars on the lead lap.
Mark Martin took 4 tires. You know, we heard him say that you could take 2 tires on the caution. We saw him put 4 tires on the car. At least I thought I saw him put 4. I know he put left sides on it.
And Todd Bodine is on pit road. So the lead will change again. And it means that Bobby Labonte will become the 7th different leader of this race today. Glenn?
Well, Todd Bodine finally brings the 3400 Hungry Jack car into the pits. They're going to the right side to check the tires, but guys, this is fuel only. They're well satisfied with the way the car is performing. They're not even changing tires. They didn't put but 1 tank of gas, or 1 can of gas, and 1.5, excuse me. And he's down and away. He didn't have the problems that Mark Martin had, so he, I believe, stayed on the lead lap, did he not?
I don't know, Neil. Will 1 can be enough?
Well, I would be concerned about that. They said they could go 105 laps, and that's on 22 gallons. It's going. I don't know what the strategy is there, but the way I count it, it's hard for me to imagine being able to go. Those cans hold 11 gallons, and he's got to go over 80 laps on 11 gallons.
That could be a tall order. Bobby Labonte then takes over the lead. He is the 7th driver to occupy the front spot today. Ward Burton coming in for his pit stop. He is 5 laps back after being involved in an incident. And so Labonte comes to the front, and we'll play the waiting game on him. Now there's the discussion going on between Clyde McLeod and his crew as to what happened to that second can. Glenn?
Discussion going on, Mike. They didn't even get 1 full can in that thing. They've all come around and lifted the can, but it's probably still got about a 1/10 or so of the liquid, the fuel still in it, so they didn't even get a complete can in there. The other can beside it is completely full, so I don't see any way that he'll be able to make it the rest of the race.
We'll point out the fellow fueling the car is not their regular gas man. He came over from Mike McLaughlin's crew, although he did work with this team when Mike McLaughlin drove the Sherry Cup Modified, on which Clyde McLeod was crew chief. So it's swapping around of personnel there, and there may have been a miscue.
It almost looked like it was, Mike, because he took the 1 can off and he turned around and reached for the other can, and they took off. He was still wanting to add that other can, but the car had already left.
Well, we'll double check the position on car number 34 and find out just where Todd Bodine is in the running order. Now here's Bobby Labonte coming up to lap the 11th place car, Kenny Schrader. Again, Schrader has made his fuel stop and should be able to go the distance.
Bodine's pits just realized, they said that there's no way they can make it, and they're hoping for a caution now.
Going to have to see one. Well, that's a tough break. Well, back behind Bobby Labonte, Robert Presley now picks up the 2nd spot. Chuck Bown moves up to 3rd. Joe Nemechek to 4th. And they're posting Tommy Houston now in 5th position. Nemechek is drifting back a bit in the field. Mike Waltrip just went past him. And one car bounces off the wall. It was Bodine. Between 1 and 2 there, I believe that was Todd Bodine, who bounced up off the wall.
They might have just called him and told him he's going to pit again, and he might have been just a little anxious in seeing if he could make it that time for him.
See how that car looks as he comes off 4. And everything seems okay. Wrinkle up the right side a little bit there. So we're tracking Bobby Labonte here to see, and we'll double check on pit road, but I believe Labonte has yet to make his stop.
That's what I was wondering, Mike. We've had so many cautions earlier, and they made stops. I was concerned myself if Labonte did come in earlier and put fuel in that car.
I don't believe he has been to pit road. And we'll have Glenn or Martin fill us in on that for sure. But we're getting up to the 130 lap mark coming up here pretty quickly.
We've got some of our pit guys headed down to the 44 pit to see when they'll be coming in.
Big knot of cars there just ahead of leader Bobby Labonte.
Yeah, and I tell you, one of them that's in front of him is Kenny Wallace. He's really closing in. Excuse me, Chuck Brown I saw in front of him. And, he's coming up on Kenny Wallace and a few of the really quick cars. So he must be running a hard pace right now.
Labonte looking for his 4th career Busch Grand National win. He picked up the victory at Lanier's a couple of weeks ago here on TNN. And here's Joe Nemechek, who has come so close to that first victory on a number of occasions. And Tommy Houston slowed down just to the right of frame. He just went out of the picture there to the right side. And he is coasting around the racetrack. Mark Garrow?
I'm down in Bobby Labonte's Slim Jim Chevrolet pits. He has not come in yet, and they're not really sure when they're going to bring him. The Texas Pete Chevrolet of Joe Nemechek is in. They're going 2 cans of fuel. They did not change the tires. He's getting ready to take off. Bob Labonte, Bobby's father's talking to him. They've got to be coming in in just a few laps, but right now they're just playing a waiting game because they apparently are getting exceptional gas mileage.
Mike, a lot of times you'll use another guy as a gauge, and I would say the Tommy Houston coasting in right now, that's probably the gauge they're looking at. That when you see some other cars start running out, you better get on in. And we see Labonte's pit guys getting up on pit wall, getting ready for him.
Tommy Houston has lost now 2 laps as a result of running out of gas between turns 1 and 2 and having to coast all the way around the racetrack. And there he is. A couple of guys ran up pit road to help push him to his pit. He's going to make it.
And here comes the gas man over, but boy, it's cost you so much by then. And they've got 1 can ready. I don't know if they're going to go with it. Yeah, here comes the 2nd can. The man's got it ready on the back over here.
He better hurry.
Yeah,
all right, they're going to hold
me. That's what you don't like to see right there, is that fuel flying everywhere. Now the problem is getting the car recranked. It's hard to get that thing to refire after it's run totally out. You got to fill the fuel lines, fuel filters, fuel bowls, and it's hard to get it back going again.
Now remember, these cars have mechanical, not electrical fuel pumps, so you got to grind away on that starter motor and hope you've got enough juice to get the job done.
Boy, Labonte, if he hasn't pitted for fuel, he's stretching it out there now.
Well, he is flying, too. Look, he's about to lap by Kenny Wallace.
Mike, a lot of times, big wreck up in 3 and 4. 3 cars in it right now, 4 cars.
Looks like Lassiter, Donahue. 2 other cars involved.
You think you think Labonte might stop?
I think he might now. Lap 133, and we see the 7th caution of the day at
that fell right into Labonte's hands.
A tough break for Tommy Houston and Joe Nemechek and anybody else who just pitted. 4 cars are involved up there in the corner. There's the run back to the line. Kenny Wallace will stay on the lead lap, and so will Tracy Leslie.
Mike, I tell you what that does to a lot of people.
There's Joe Bessie's car, excuse me, from Scarborough, Maine. And boy, he clocked it a ton. That cement is very unforgiving.
Boy, I hope that's water running out of the front. I'm sure it is.
Also up there is Richard Lassiter. And the car to the right, the blue and yellow car, was David Donahue.
I'm trying to see who the red car is down on the inside.
That's Jamie Obey from Vermont. The 4th car involved.
Now, boy, this right here with Labonte catching that caution, you know he had to pit any minute. Now these other guys, just like Schrader, some of those guys would have gotten back in the lead lap. but he happened to catch his caution, so he buried a bunch of those guys a lap down that still were in contention.
The blue and yellow car at the accident scene, 67. Again, a very interesting story there. The late Trans Am champ, Can-Am champ, and IndyCar great Mark Donohue. His son David has been flirting around with a professional racing career, and comes here to run this Busch Grand National race, and ends up as being part of that accident up there. But he had been giving a good account of himself to that point.
And there was Labonte coming in, who definitely needed to come in. There's Presley. All the leaders be coming back, and it also kind of bails Bodine's crew out.
Boy, I guess. You know, Bodine made that pit stop without losing a lap, so really he's going to be blessed on this deal. Here's Mark Garrow.
Bobby Labonte brings his car in when the yellow flag came out. This crowd really jumped up and down. They were excited. Quick stop. David McGee goes around to the front. The most important man, Wayne Shaw, the gas man, really pumping all the fuel in there he can. Labonte's car now stalls out. He's standing away, just barely beats Todd Bodine out of the pit.
Going to lose a couple of spots there to Robert Presley and Chuck Bound. Glenn Jarrett?
Well, Mike just left Robert Presley's pit. He came in, put on left side tires, a good stop. The 34 car came back in. They got that fuel they needed. As you said, they're on the lead lap, so they're in good shape. The 63 car, Chuck Bound, also came in. So all the guys that are contenders now have got plenty of fuel, good tires, so it should be a shootout to the finish.
Glenn, what happened on that first pit stop for Todd Bodine?
Well, they just got in too big a hurry, Mike. They tried to get the car in and out too fast. Actually, they were gambling on getting the caution flag, I think, and boy, they sure were lucky, because that's a heck of a gamble to take.
So we're under caution for the 7th time today here at Pennsylvania International Raceway. Under the yellow flag. We'll be right back. Bobby Labonte down pit road. Labonte's car was still up on the jack when Presley had completed service, so he's the new leader. He is the 8th driver to lead this race today. Labonte in second, Todd Bodine third, Kenny Wallace, who had pitted earlier, and Michael Waltrip. The remainder of the top 5. There goes Richard Lassiter's car off to the innkeeper, or wherever they keep battered race cars overnight these days.
Mike, while we got a little bit of time, we were talking before about how would a guy pull off and, not give a one fuel can. The key to a race car driver, and not from the time you first drive on one of these big racetracks or where you make pit stops, the only thing you're determining factor when you leave is when they let the jack down. You never look at an individual. You never look what's going on. You wait till you feel that car hit the ground, and that's when you leave. And when you make a call like a while ago where they don't change tires, then you're kind of out of sync. Your key to go where they drop the car is not there. And it's one of those deals where somebody put one can of gas in, he's getting ready the other, and the driver leaves. The other thing that gets it is when you drop the jack. That's the key, and they didn't have that option to use that.
Talking about what happened on Todd Bodine, but he is back up with the program and on the lead lap. Since we're under caution, we'll take another break here from Nazareth and be back with more racing after this. How close was Bobby Labonte to being out of gas? Mark Garrow?
Great question after Bobby.
We'll double check with Mark here in a moment as we're about set to get back to green, and Gene Wilson, one of the NASCAR officials there, having a talk with the Labonte crew. Kenny Schrader has gone a lap down just before that caution. He's the 11th place car. Checking on Butch Miller. Otherwise, we're showing 8 cars on the lead lap. Tommy Houston ran out of gas and dropped off, and Joe Nemechek made a pit stop under green and fell off the lead lap. Also, we'll let Steve Helwig off the hook, big guy who's there helping out Clyde McLeod, and they did have a miscue on Todd Bodine's car, but the caution flag gets them all caught back up again. He's the 3rd place car behind Robert Presley and Bobby Labonte. And where did the Fords go? Jeff Gordon went behind the wall, and Mark Martin's car lost a couple of laps making his pit stop, and he made one of the back.
He made one back, and he's right there in about 4th or 5th place in the line. He's going to have to try to get one more back.
Todd Bodine comes hard and gets 2nd spot from Bobby Labonte. Good move there in turn 4. He carried Labonte right up and out of the groove.
Well, I tell you, fate in races is crazy how it rolls. Here the 34 car was in a bunch of trouble, and now he's back in contention to win the race.
Mentioned Butch Miller had been up on the lead lap. He has now dropped well off the pace, 3 laps back.
Grissom is back out.
Steve Grissom, as Glenn reports, returning to the race. And here we go again for 2nd spot.
Right there, turn 1, the same place where the inside man has right away, and You have to give him that line.
Well, let's stay with that battle for second place and see if they're going to have to rename these things Hungry Todd biscuits.
He's hungry, all right. He needs to get back up in there with him. But I think Labonte took advantage and put some tires on his car. And the 34 cars had the same tires he started the race with, unless he changed on it last one. I didn't see him do it. But Presley seems to like that front pretty well himself.
Yeah, he's made a good run to the front. Let's check again with Mark Garrow. He had been tracking the fuel mileage that Bobby Labonte was getting. Mark?
I just asked that question of Bob Labonte, how close were you? And he said, well, between me and you, we were real close. But if you're going to put it on the air, tell him it's for me to know and for them to find out.
Asked and unanswered. Okay. Well, they got fuel to go the distance now. Trouble in 4. Spinning. Tracy Leslie. Nobody gets him. Ooh, tense moment, and we'll stay green.
Well, I tell you, he made a 180, turned it off, you know, or is that 360, I guess. He turned it all the way. Caution did come out, Mike. It looked like he got in such a high part of the racetrack, he slung some trash down there.
So at lap 145, we get the 8th caution of the day. Very simple, harmless one-car spin, Tracy Leslie, who was, and I believe will stay on the lead lap.
It was probably harmless to everybody but him. I'm sure he didn't like it.
So Presley's the leader. Labonte is second. Bodine is third. Kenny Wallace is fourth. Mike Waltrip is fifth. Tracy Leslie was sixth at the time of that spin. It'll put him back to eighth and move Chuck Bound up to sixth and Jimmy Hensley to seventh. That's the way they're running. 54 laps to go. Here at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And it was a one-car spin that brought it out. Let's have a look in turn 4.
There you go. The car's already made half a loop. He turns around. And he's like he's been to that driving school where they teach you to turn back into the turn, shift gears, take off again. There's Nemechek right behind him. Did a good job avoiding. It was a 180. He just did it twice. Just like I said to start with.
You were right. And NASCAR officials had a look up there and dropped the caution on it, even though Leslie was able to get away. Mark?
I'm down in the Robert Presley pits, the Alliance Tractor Trailer I always screw that up. Tractor Trailer Training Center Oldsmobile. Talk with Ricky Pearson. You just forced the smile. Most people that are in the lead are jumping up for joy this late in the event, but things are not all well with Robert's car.
No, Mark. About 10 laps into the race, the header pipe broke. You know, we're both up to the head, so we're really giving a lot of horsepower away. You know, Ben Barnes and all the guys back at Barnes and Reese built a great motor, but you know, it's killing us right now.
So Robert then is just driving the wheels off of this thing to try to hold on.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, you know, but I don't know how long we can hold these guys off. But, you know, who knows? We may hang on to it.
Ricky Pearson, they're going to do the best they can.
Well, so far that's been plenty good enough. 52 laps to go. Presley the leader. There's Bobby Labonte in second, lined up right behind him. Third place car is Todd Bodine. Kenny Wallace is fourth. And we're scoring showing Mike Waltrip right up there. Chuck Bound, Jimmy Hensley, and Tracy Leslie. 8 cars on the lead lap. And most of the cars that got shuffled off of the lead lap did so when they had to make green flag pit stops.
Yeah, what really complicated things was when the 44 car of Labonte was able to stretch us so far, because if he hadn't have caught that caution and came in, he'd have put a bunch of the other guys back on the lead lap. So a combination of him stretching it and some of the other guys making a little early stop really cost him.
Exactly. Pontiac safety car leads them past. We'll stay under caution one more lap. Let's check with Glenn.
Well, I'm in Chuck Bound's pits. This is Jeff Hensley, his crew chief, and you guys have had an uphill struggle all day, but you're trying a little bit of strategy on them now.
Yeah, we pitted earlier in the race and put new right side tires on the Nescafe ST Pontiac and gambled on getting another caution before the halfway, and we did. We got left just a few laps to go on about lap 130, and now we're back with fresh right. So the way I got it figured, we're the only car on the track. It's got 4 new tires, and the only car that's got better tires is Mark Martin. He's a lap down. You know, we can't beat him out on the racetrack. Maybe we can beat him here in the pits. I don't know. But Nescafe and ST team, they're not giving up. You know, we can get a top 5 out of this thing if we can't get a win, and who knows, this may work.
Well, I'd say they're in pretty good shape with those fresh tires, Mike.
So far, so good. Chuck Bound's last win was up at Pulaski, July of 1991. So it's been almost a season since that 10th career victory on this circuit. And he is one of those 8 cars that's still on the lead lap and has a shot here. Caution's still out as they have a look toward turn number 4, up where Tracy Leslie spun. And we should be back to green here before too long. Yep, 1 lap to go. I don't know, Neil, who do you like with 50 laps left?
Well, it makes me wonder, you know, the 59 car Presley, they're talking about they have a header problem, which does take power away from the engine. Labonte's car is sitting there in really good shape. But, you know, Chuck Bound, those 40 tires, I know how much tires mean on a place like this. And if he can work traffic, the key is, in this, he's got to come foul. He's got to pass a lot of cars to get there. By the time you get there, you use the tires up.
Here's a look at that David Donahue car, and it's nostalgic, and it's significant for a few reasons. His dad always ran number 6 from the days of his Elva Courier and SCCA amateur racing to his days with Roger Penske, winning the Trans Am Championship in Camaros, and then winning Indianapolis with car number 66 as 6 was taken, and that famed Sunoco blue and a little bit of yellow pinstriping on all of Mark's colors. So good to see his son out here and giving a good run today, despite getting the nose knocked off that thing once. And
just
that break us up in 4. Yep. It's part of the literal school of hard knocks.
If he thinks he's in trouble, look at the 2 cars in front of him. They don't even have a nose left.
All right. One of those Jeff Burt.
Kind of like getting in a fight. You think I look bad, look at the other guys.
Yeah. 25 years old and having a good run of it here today. David Donahue. Green flag with 50 laps to go. Robert Presley hauls him off down into turn number 1, and Mark Martin 1 lap behind. Trying to get it back, separates Presley from the rest of the leader. And he's got 5 cylinders. He's got a heck of a jump for 5 cylinders.
Well, they said they blew the header off.
Oh, that's
maybe
right.
The horsepower blew the header off, because it's sure running. Going to complicate things for him as Mark Martin's trying to get his lap back, and he's in between them there. And we heard them say that Mark's got 4 fresh tires, so he might be able to get up there and get that lap back.
Bobby Labonte in second. Todd Bodine in third. Then the Butch Miller car is next in line, but 3 laps down. Kenny Wallace, Chuck Bound, Mike Waltrip, Tracy Leslie, and Jimmy Hensley have a ways to go and a lot of lap training to get to challenge these leaders.
Well, what you got to be careful of here. Now, here's Martin trying to get a lap back. And we've seen repeatedly, if you get to that outside lane, you let more than one guy by. He's got to be careful if Martin makes the pass that he doesn't let Labonte by also.
Martin is in 9th place, 1 lap down. Backstretch. No move. But now Martin's got a mirror full of Bobby Labonte as well. For Chuck Bound, but he's stuck back in that 3rd pack of cars. Glenn?
Well, Todd Bodine's crew just told me that Todd radioed in and asked him to do a little sun dance. His car's a little bit tight. They only changed right side tires. Remember, you can only change 2 tires under a caution, so they only got to put on right side that time. So his car's a little bit tight. He's looking for some hot sunshine to loosen it up.
He's having a good, strong run here today.
Here's Mark Martin really working on Presley. He's still got enough time that if he can get back around him and catch a caution, that'll put him back in the same lap. And then, you know, people say, well, why is he messing with a leader? He's a lap down. He's still got the opportunity to win this race.
He could. He certainly could. Now, those 4 fresh tires, Neil, that he and Chuck Bound has, how long will that give him any kind of advantage?
Usually you get the good out of them on a place like this, 8 or 10 or maybe 12 laps, and they start leveling out. So he's got to do it quick, or he's not going to have any edge on him.
There's Todd Bodine in 34, coming right up the tailpipes of Bobby Labonte. That's for 2nd place. You know, it's been a good, clean race, but for the incidents, the racing itself has been quite clean.
Yeah, because in a place like this, we've seen repeatedly the lead guys put the nose up under guy. Speaking of nose up under guy, here's Mark Martin. But see, look, Presley's got the option now. He had just enough lead that he could pull back in. Both of them had gotten away from Labonte. And here comes Labonte to the inside.
Bobby Labonte made the dive down in turn number 2, and Presley had to go dirt tracking with 1 wheel off to hold the bottom of the racetrack.
And here comes Labonte trying it on the outside.
When Presley dropped that left front tire off, it hurt his momentum just enough, and there went Bobby Labonte.
They always say, well, Mo, in a lot of sports, and it's in this one too, momentum, you've got to have it and keep that thing wound up.
New leader, Bobby Labonte. Presley back to 2nd. Todd Bodine could not capitalize. He hangs on to third. And there's a new player, Jimmy Hensley. Meanwhile, Mark Martin is moving away from the leader. With 4 fresh tires, definitely a help. There's Martin at the bottom of your screen, well out ahead of the new leader, Labonte. Now, he'll need a caution to get back in the chase to win this.
But, boy, you hit the nail on the head. Look at Hensley coming into the picture. He's really running up on him. Car running low on the racetrack.
It's right there. And that may be the fastest car of these 4. The 25 of Jimmy Hensley.
All the way hanging the left side tires off the racetrack. Car working well low.
Someday somebody may be able to explain to me why this Don Beverly team cannot find a national sponsor as well as they've run and the races they've won.
Mike, a real good indication is they've had different people drive the car, and the car always is up front and everything. And Don Beverly's a racer. He's got his own Pro Stock car and all. But yeah, I'm surprised myself that this team doesn't have good national backing. Maybe one day people recognize what's there and they'll take advantage of that.
I'll tell you, he's running a lot better than a lot of well-sponsored cars. 12 lead changes among 8 drivers. Bobby Labonte in front for the second time today. On the lead lap, there's Labonte, Presley, and Bodine. And the blue car, that's Jimmy Hensley.
Let's make it Labonte, Presley. He's Presley.
Right.
He's back up there now. And, you know, that little bobble while ago, not only when he slipped around, he lost momentum, he heated the tires up a little bit. He's kind of got the car back under him again. He's got that feel back, and he's putting on some heat on Labonte.
Now back behind them come Chuck Bound, Kenny Wallace, Mike Waltrip, and Tracy Leslie. Those cars are on the lead lap. 1 lap down, Mark Martin, Ricky Cravens had a good run here today, and Kenny Schrader. 2 laps back now, Butch Miller, Joe Nemechek, and Clifford Allison. Then Tommy Houston is 3 laps down, followed by Bobby Donner.
It almost looks like Labonte looked up in the mirror and said, hey, this guy's coming back. I better step it up a little bit because he's got just a little bit of cushion again.
And Todd Bodine's not able to do anything with Presley for second, nor is Hensley been able to regroup and close the gap any further for third. Pretty evenly matched group of 4 race cars right now.
Yeah, and you know, the one that's being a little bit conservative might be better off right now because we've seen guys take a little bit of a lead, use some tires up, and get caught. And the guy that's using his head a little bit right now might, with a few laps to go, have a little bit more left.
Bobby Labonte trying to repeat as champion. And no indication what he'll do next season, win or lose this championship.
Got a bright future, you know. The guy really does a good job. And how many times have we seen him in races like this? And oh, here we go.
David Donahue. Put a little of that DuPont paint on the wall. And we'll get a caution. This comes at lap 165 with 35 to go. It's the 9th caution of the day.
I tell you who might be the benefactor of this caution. It will be Chuck Bound.
You bet.
He had passed about 10 cars. He was the next guy back behind this lead group, but they had got such a jump on him. If he can get right on that rear bumper on the start, he might be in fairly decent shape for him.
And Mark Martin, who is now back on the lead lap.
Yep.
And can come around to the tail end of the field. So 9 cars now on the lead lap to settle this one here at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. 34 laps to go. We'll be right back. For those of you hoping to see NHRA today, due to the length of this race, that program has been preempted for this afternoon on TNN. Watch for it here next week. Here at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, we're under the 9th caution of the day. David Donahue's car was the reason why. He comes back to pit road for a bit more service. Mark Martin and Robert Presley have also been on pit road during this pit stop. Let's have a look at the incident.
It looked like he just lost the car coming off the corner, really got the brakes locked down, and thank goodness, I think it stops just before he gets into the wall, so didn't do any more damage on that.
And he'll be able to complete this event with new tires on that car. Now, Mark Martin made a pit stop. Jeff Burton is in. Ward Burton, with the hood up, Tracy Leslie and Robert Presley. They've all been on pit road. Let's find out what's going on down there.
Well, they're going to bring Robert Presley back in. Mike, you talked about at the top of the show what a weird week this was. Well, listen to this. The snap ring that holds the bearings on, you know, these steering wheels come off and on, you know, with the little, well, it's a bearing that slips over the steering column, and there's a ring that holds it in. The ring broke and all the bearings fell out. Robert was worried that the steering wheel was going to come off in his hand. Ricky assured him that there's no way the steering wheel would come off, but he said it feels real funny to him, so they're going to bring it back in, trying to put some kind of clamp on it.
That's fine.
Coming in right now.
It's fine for Ricky to say he's standing in the pits.
Like I broke the steering wheel off one time. I broke one of the spokes off at Darlington while I was leading the race, and I called him. I said, hey, the steering wheel broke. They said, you've torn up everything else there is in a race car. There's no way you can tear the steering wheel up, and that's a bad feeling to look down that thing broken off.
Oh, no. It's a quick release hub that is the problem. And looks like it released a little too quick. Glenn?
They've got the window net down. Robert is talking agitatedly or animatedly to Ricky, let him know that, hey, he doesn't like that. They've got pliers and clamps and stuff in there. Now they've got it on. They're getting ready to turn him loose, so they think they've got the problem solved. But you talk about a guy that had a scared look on his face. Now, Robert Presley was that man.
I don't imagine he's going to be all that trusting right, you know, from here on. Glenn, it kind of begs the question, why not just give another steering wheel?
I don't think they've got one here. I'll see if I can get a word with Ricky Pearson. He's going to talk to Robert for a minute, see if it's okay.
Well, it made that left turn.
Mike, whenever that day I had trouble like that, I kept telling him I need a steering wheel. I said, hey, we don't bring spare steering wheels. We got everything to build a race car. You just don't take many steering wheels with you.
That's because they expect if you bang the thing up, all you'll bring back is the steering wheel. We're back under green, 30 laps to go, and this becomes a short track shootout. Presley is still on the lead lap, but he'll be back about 9th place. And a half a lap behind as they take the restart green. What a tough break.
This boy Bodine is really putting the heat on Labonte here, trying to pull right up beside him, going down the back straightaway.
Yeah, it's hungry time. Let's make those biscuits. There he goes. Now, will he slip up too far? Because Labonte's going to come right back at him. Ooh, and nudges him just a bit. Well, that brought the fans to their feet.
Todd really protected that inside line, is the thing to do, and he held him off.
You don't think he's becoming a sharp little racer. That may convince you right there. Boy, Labonte, though, is all over him.
Let me tell you, this is the kind of racetrack where we can see a lead change every lap because, you know, the guy gets inside, got him covered. Inside, and they can swap this lead around several times.
How about twice every lap?
Maybe.
Once at 4 and once again at 1.
Okay.
Labonte back to the front. And Chuck Bound has just driven underneath Jimmy Hensley for 3rd. So Bound is coming. There's Chuck, and here's Mike Waltrip following him along underneath Jimmy Hensley, who did not come up to speed all that quickly on the restart.
Here we're looking at Chuck Bound. What he needs is for those 2 lead guys to do a lot of racing to give him time to get there.
He's coming. 3rd place car, Joe Nemechek, a lap down, 2 laps down. Remember, Nemechek had to pit under green for fuel. Front of the field. Doesn't get much closer than this.
Now here's the 2 lead cars. What they've got to do now, Labonte's got to go from offense to defense. He's got to really protect that lead, and you don't usually run as good a lap times as when you start protecting things, and that might give the 63 car Bound a chance to pull in on these 2 cars.
This is only Todd Bodine's 2nd appearance at Nazareth. He finished 22nd here last year. But he has found the way around this unique 4 or 5 turn, if you will, tri-oval. Tries the inside. Here he comes. And gets the lead.
Yep. And watch Labonte. The thing to do now is bury the nose of that car. Back up under him. Don't give him any breathing room. You want to keep the heat on. Just because he took the lead, you don't even think he's driving away. So they're going to scramble at each lap.
Kenny Schrader's car has slowed and is crawling down the back straightaway. And he'll go to pit road. 25 laps to go. Now Bodine's opening up a 2-car length lead. Bodine has 1 Busch Grand National win. He earned it, but it was a bit of a fluke. A race ended under caution last June at Dover, Delaware, and one of the lead cars, Todd was running 3rd. The lead car broke, and the car right behind ran out of gas. I think it was Ernie Irvin and Davey Allison. And a surprise Todd Bodine earned his first Grand National win. But this one would be different.
Yeah, he's having to work real hard for this thing here, and holding somebody like Labonte. What's got to be concerned about a guy like Labonte, he might be there now really cooling his tires down. So, hey, we swapped it back before, we swapped it back before. Let me get this thing under me real good, and I'll really make a run on him. So he's either got him beat real bad, or Labonte's taking care of his race car. Speaking of taking care of race cars, I'll tell you somebody that's coming in the back of that shot right there was Mark Martin. You know, he got the lap back a while ago, and now he's moved around several of these guys, and he's got new tires on.
Yes, because at lap 165, Martin came back in and got 2 more tires. Front 2, Bodine and Labonte, little lap traffic, and then the next 2 cars will be Bound and Martin. With fresher tires, there they are, just coming into view.
I'll tell you what's got me concerned on a deal like this. They're not showing Mark on the board, and that long caution deal, although they told us he was just 1 down. So I guess now it's a question of where he is on the racetrack. That really scrambled things up.
We'll double check with scoring on Mark Martin's car. We had him making that lap up.
Yeah, we saw him just before that giving a lap back.
Well, we better check, too, because scoreboard doesn't have there. Now they've got it correct. Todd is the leader. There's his wife, Lynn, looking on. Bonnie in second. Then Chuck Bound.
And here we go with Mark Martin up on the board now. So we mentioned it, and they decided to straighten it out, I guess.
So Martin is 4th, and Mike Waltrip 5th. Mike was involved in the first caution of the day, the one between where Tom Peck got into the back of Mike Wallace. And I didn't think we'd see much of the younger Waltrip from there on, but he's come up to the top 5 and run well. There's his yellow Pennzoil car just behind these 2. And there's Waltrip with Jimmy Hensley. It's a good battle there. I don't know which one to watch. 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, or this one for 5th and 6th.
Yeah, while this is going on here, Mark Martin just went around Chuck Bound.
There went 3rd place. Now, is 20 laps enough time for him to catch and deal with the leader?
He's going to need a little bit of help, and when I say that, he's going to need these 2 leaders to mix it up a little bit, and it looks like Bodine is able to pull out some. I don't think Labonte would give him that much of a cushion. Even though Mark has gotten around the guys, he's in 3rd. He's got a lot of distance to make up.
Yeah, but look at how he is flying away from Chuck Bound, and Chuck was one of the fastest cars on the racetrack.
Yep.
There's Bound, who's now 4th, and Mike Waltrip is moving up on Bound, the 5th place car. That's where the battle is going to be next.
I'll tell you what's
and up front, once again, let's reset. There is Bodine in the 34 car and Labonte in 44, and lap traffic has allowed Labonte to close right back in there.
In a matter of a lap, he went from, 8 car lengths back to right back up there with him. This is what Mark Martin needs. These 2 guys to start battling, and then he might be able to close the door on a little bit.
18 laps to go. Folks, we're going to take our last break here before the checkered flag and be right back, because this is going to be a thriller right down to the checkers. Labonte right on his bumper. Bodine is faster than Labonte, but has not had an easy time dealing with lap traffic.
Mike, the minute he clears traffic, he drives away, but his car feels like his car's so good that when he comes to the lap traffic, he's almost too cautious. Every time he gets in that traffic, the leader's been able to, Labonte has been able to close in on him, and he's lost a lot of ground, but the traffic has really been giving him a fit.
That's the way they are 1st to 2nd. Let's look back and find Mark Martin, the 3rd place car, as Martin has been trying to close it right up. There's David Donahue and Jack Sprague, and there's Mark Martin. So Martin has been able to make up about half the distance that separated he and Chuck Bound from the race leaders when he made the pass of Bound. So Martin is coming, but maybe not quick enough. There's Chuck Bound coming into view, and Jimmy Hensley, who are the 4th and 5th place cars. There's Bound, there's Hensley, the 5th place car, the blue car. And right behind Hensley, the yellow car will be Michael Waltrip. In 6th place, all of those drivers are on the lead lap, as is still Tracy Leslie and Kenny Wallace. Here's a look at Kenny. Joe Nemechek, couple down, so is Tommy Houston. Bobby Donner got smacked up, still running. There's Butch Miller, he is 2 laps back. And we're counting them down from 10 now. 190 laps on the board.
Mike, we went through one segment where Todd Bodine, we're seeing here, really had to battle lap traffic. Now it's breaking up a little bit. That might be a big advantage for him. He's not going to have to deal with that traffic, maybe just one car every now and then. Before, it was really giving him a fit.
Well, traffic will be ahead. It's spread out pretty evenly around the racetrack for Todd Bodine. Again, very partisan, NASCAR modified fan type crowd here from the Northeast. Looking at one of their own running out front with 9 laps to go. Labonte in second, Mark Martin in third.
Here they are coming into that traffic we were talking about again. There's a few cars he's got to deal with before he can get away from Labonte.
Now, when he catches traffic right there, like right in the middle of the corner, and has to lift and get out of the throttle, Neil, what can he do differently?
Well, you almost need to see the traffic coming and roll out on the straightaway, where when you come to the traffic, you can keep that momentum up and really get a run off the corner. Before he was as he was coming to the traffic, he was working it. You've almost got to work the traffic before you get there. And like I say, he's got such a good race car under him. He feels like he can do it anyway, and he's able to hold him on. So that traffic really hurt Labonte. Had him stuck on the outside through that real bad part of the racetrack.
They're putting Ricky Craven there 2 laps back. And now 7 to go. Clyde McLeod on the radio to Todd Bodine. McLeod was the crew chief for Todd's older brother Brett at Sherry Cups, who won a lot of NASCAR modified races, and crew chief for Mike McLaughlin, who won the National Modified Championship for Billy Carrazzo's team as well. And now the youngest of the Bodine brothers, trying to pick up his 2nd career Grand National win. There's the race for 4th place, where Chuck Bown and Jimmy Hensley once again come to close company. Good run for both drivers today.
I don't know who it was a while ago was praying for sunshine, Mike. We've got it again. It's broken out. I think it's too late in the race for the sun or the clouds to be the determining factor in who wins this thing.
It is with 5 to go. Good battle there for 4th spot. Back up front. There is Todd Bodine. 4 laps to go. And he is extending the margin once again. You see traffic is thinned out in front of him. J.B. Obey moves to the inside. Here's Mark Martin, the 3rd place car. And there's nobody ahead of Todd Bodine now for some distance. So if he is still faster than Labonte's car, he should be able to open it up here.
Yeah, because there's nothing going to be in the way now. There'll be clear sailing to the end.
3 laps to go.
Yeah, Mike Labonte is really working his car hard. He really sailed it in on the outside, drove it a mile off in the 3rd turn, and got back on it. And he's trying everything he can do. And not only that, he's trying to...
Trouble. Martin Truex has spun.
No caution.
And he's going to spin it around right in front of a pack of cars, but we're going to stay green. Starter has the white flag in hand. It'll come down to 2 laps to go this time.
But boy, I tell you, Labonte has really closed in on him. I think they called him and told him that car spun in 3 and 4, and he might have lifted a little bit because here he is right behind him.
Well, when the car turned around and came down the racetrack, Bodine was bearing down on it quickly. So his lead is evaporated with 2 laps to go. Bobby Labonte is just 2 car lengths back from knocking on the door of Todd Bodine to win this.
Here's where Labonte really makes his gains. He's been able to really get down in this corner hard. You see him there? He runs a higher line off the corner, really accelerating here. He's going to have one more shot with white flag, Mike.
1 lap to go. Turn 1. Don't congratulate too early. Turn 2. There is Bodine. Labonte is there. 2 car lengths back. Back straightaway, final time.
Yeah, they're coming up on a slow car. Enter that corner right there.
That'll be Bobby Dotter, last week's winner. This week's lap car, after getting involved in that incident. Bodine eases up. Here comes Labonte coming hard, but he's going to run out of room, and Todd Bodine will score his 2nd Busch Grand National victory. 51 weeks after his first triumph at Dover, Delaware, and there's the battle for 4th spot. Chuck Bown holds on over Jimmy Hensley.
It's going to be a happy young man right there.
Yeah. Todd Bodine will go to victory lane. We'll be there in a moment. And Remind you that coming up on TNN next Saturday night, the Winston One Hot Summer Night at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll bring it to you live. And at the Winston Open next weekend on Saturday night, we'll debut our in-car commentator. Yup, Buddy Baker will be mic'd throughout the race as he competes in the Winston Open and hopes to transfer into the Winston. But let's not let our anticipation of that great race take away from this moment for young Todd Bodine out of Chemung, New York, who has picked up his second career Busch Grand National victory. 28 years old, and he'll earn Clyde McLeod, his crew chief, the Miller Pit Crew of the Race award. Mark Garrow is with them.
With Clyde McLeod, who anxiously wants to get down to victory lane. But Clyde, on behalf of TNN and Miller Genuine Draft, we want to award you the Pit Crew of the Race award. And you guys hung in there, had some problems, and got some breaks, and hung on and won it.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it. Appreciate everything all you guys have done with the TV coverage. And the old Hungry Jack Chevrolet, she was there today. I'd like to say hello to my family at home, too, now, because my wife couldn't make it today, and my son Ryan, and my mother's home watching. So this one's for you, baby.
The voodoo doll worked this time.
You bet your life she worked. She's in there.
They strapped the voodoo doll to that race car a couple of races ago. It didn't work too well, but today it paid off for them. You must have had the right amount of pins in there this time.
Yeah, I stuck a few more in her this morning, Mark, so I'd straighten her out.
Clyde McLeod, on behalf of TNN, the Miller Genuine Draft Pit Crew of the race. Let's go to victory lane.
We'll be in victory lane in a moment. Today, Glenn Jarrett.
Well, here's the most disappointed guy in the world right now. Great day.
Yeah, I tell you what, this Hungry Jack Chevrolet ran perfect all day. Last practice, we know we only had an hour practice, and the guys thrashed real hard. We made some changes right before the race. Me and Clyde and John thought about it, and it was right. I tell you what, the Hungry Jack team is back. I'm telling you, this is the change of everything.
Okay, we're going to let him go celebrate and eat some biscuits.
One thing I got to say hey to John's father is in the hospital recuperating. How you doing, David?
Okay, back to Mike.
Great win for Todd Bodine, Clyde McLeod, and big guy Steve Elwig and that whole crew. We'll talk to you next Saturday night, one hot summer night from the Winston at Charlotte. For Neil Bonnet, Glenn Jarrett, Mark Garrow, I'm Mike Joy. Goodbye from Nazareth.